This video is about perpetuity. So what are the major characteristics of ordinary perpetuity? It has 4 characteristics. The first one is we must have equivalent cash flow, which means we have the same amount. Second characteristic is it occurs at the end of each period. So we receive it, for example, at the end of each year, or at the end of each quarter, or at the end of each month. Third characteristic is it happens at equal interval, for example, every year, or every quarter, or every month. The fourth characteristic is this cash flow will happen every period forever, which means indefinitely. So let's look at the formula of the present value of ordinary annuity, which we discussed earlier. So the present value of ordinary annuity is equal to cash flow multiplied by open first bracket 1 minus open second bracket 1 plus I close bracket to the power negative n close bracket divided by I. We said that in perpetuity it will continue forever indefinitely. Therefore our n will be infinity. So I need to rewrite this formula again, and I will replace n to be infinity. Therefore we know that anything to the power infinity is equal to what? Is equal to 0. Therefore, I know that the present value will be equal to c multiplied by 1 minus 0 divided by I, which means the present value will be equal to cash flow divided by I. And this will be our formula for the present value of ordinary perpetuity. And this is how we got the present value for ordinary perpetuity from the present value from ordinary annuity. So, what do you think, guys? Do we use the present value of ordinary perpetuity in real life? Which means, do we have a cash flow that will continue every period forever, or just a theory? Think about it. Well, I know that some of you will say like, we're not so sure. Some of you will be more toward theory, but in reality, we use perpetuity in real life. For example, what you're doing right now, university. Let's assume that at university, we would like to give an annual scholarship to the best performing student. So, on average, what is the annual tuition fee? Let's assume it's 10,000. So we need to pay 10,000 to the best performing student every year that will continue forever. That will carry one of the lecture's name, for example. This lecture is not going to live forever to keep giving this scholarship. So we would like to know how much we need to deposit at a bank now or at an investment fund. This amount will generate an interest or a return equivalent to 10,000. So if we said that our cash flow is 10,000, which will be the same amount every year, and let's assume that our effective annual interest rate is 10%, therefore what will be the present value? What will be the amount that we need to deposit now, to invest now? The formula of the present value of ordinary annuity is present value is equal to cash flow divided by interest rate. So I would say that here the present value is equal to 10,000 divided by 10%. This will give us $100,000. So this means that if we deposit $100,000 at a bank or investment fund that will give us an effective annual interest rate of 10% every year, we can give an annual scholarship of $10,000 every year forever. Therefore, remember, here our first cash flow happens in year 1. What will be the present value of ordinary annuity? It will be 1 year before my first annual cash flow. Therefore, here we will get our present value of $100,000. So remember, the present value of perpetuity will always be 1 period before my first cash flow. So let's discuss this point here again. Let's assume that you receive 100 million in year 1, 100 million in year 2, and I put dots, it means that it will continue forever. So what will be our present value? It will be in which year? Remember that the present value of perpetuity is 1 period before my first cash flow. So my first cash flow happens in year 1, so it will be in year 0. Let's get another example with more years. Year 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In year 5 you'll get 100, in year 6 you'll get 100, in year 7, and so on every year forever, and that's why we put dots. Therefore, if we're going to get the present value of ordinary perpetuity, it will be in which year? In year 0, 4, or 5? Remember, the present value of ordinary perpetuity is 1 period before my first cash flow. My first cash flow happens in year 5, therefore my present value will be in year 4. Let's get another example with calendar years. We have year 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 will receive 100 million, 2022 will receive 100 million, and so on. It will continue forever, and that's why we put dots. Therefore, our present value for ordinary perpetuity will be in which year? We know that the present value for ordinary in perpetuity is always 1 period before my first cash flow. My first cash flow happens in year 2020, therefore the present value will be 1 year before, which is 2019. So, the example I gave to you about tuition fee, we assume that the tuition fee will be constant, but in reality you'll discover that you don't pay the same tuition fee every year. Tuition fee increases by a certain percentage, which is called inflation. Therefore, we need to calculate the growing perpetuity, which means the characteristics for growing perpetuity will be exactly the same as ordinary perpetuity with one difference only. The only difference is instead of having the same amount every year, it will be cash flow will increase every period by the same percentage. For example, it will increase every year by 2%. It will increase every month by 1%. So it will increase periodically by the same percentage. Then we have the same characteristics, which means it will occur at the end of each period, such as at the end of each year. It will happen at equal interval, such as every year or every quarter or every month. The last characteristic is it happens indefinitely or forever. Let's continue with the same example of annual scholarship. So this is year 0, which is now. This is year 1. We need to give an annual scholarship of 10,000. Then in year 2, the scholarship will increase by 2%, which is the inflation. Therefore, it will be 10,000 multiplied by 1 plus 2%. Then in year 3, it will increase by another 2%. So it will be 10,000 multiplied by, open bracket, 1 plus 2%, close bracket to the power 2. And so on forever. Therefore, I will put dots here, which means it will continue every year forever. And above the dots, I will put 2%, which means it will increase every year by 2%. So what are the variables we have here? We have the cash flow at year 1, which is 10,000. We have our interest rate, which is 10% per annum. We have our growth rate, which is 2% per annum. So what will be our present value formula of growing perpetuity? So it will be the present value equal to cash flow divided by I minus G. So the difference between ordinary perpetuity and the growing perpetuity, ordinary perpetuity we divide by I, growing perpetuity we divide by I minus growth rate. Therefore, let's substitute here. Our present value is equal to 10,000 divided by 10% minus 2%. This will give us for sure a higher value, which is $125,000. So this means that if we have $125,000 now in an investment fund that will give us a 10% effective annual return, this means that we can give a scholarship of $10,000 in year 1 and it will increase every year by 2%. Therefore, our first cash flow starts in year 1. The present value we calculated here, it will be 1 year before. So it will be in year 0, which is $125,000. Therefore, remember that the present value of perpetuity, either ordinary or growing, will be 1 period before my first cash flow. So let's check here. Let's assume that we have here year 0. Year 1 will receive 100 million. In year 2 we'll receive 100 million multiplied by, open bracket, 1 plus constant growth rate of 2%, close bracket. Then I will put dots. It means that it will continue forever. Above the dots I will put the percentage, which means it will increase every year by 2% forever. So my first cash flow starts in year 1. Therefore, my present value will be 1 year before, which is year 0. Then let's get another example with more years. We have year 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Year 5 will receive 100 million. Year 6, it will increase by 2%. So it will be 100 million multiplied by, open bracket, 1 plus 2%, close bracket. And then I will put dots, and above the dots, I will put 2%, which means it will continue every year and it will increase every year by 2%. So my first cash flow happens in year 5. Therefore, my present value will be 1 year before, which means it will be in year 4. Let's get another example about calendar year. So here we have year 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 will receive 100 million. In year 2021, it will be 100 million multiplied by 1 plus 2%, close bracket. We assume that we have a constant growth rate of 2%. It will continue forever. Therefore, I will put dots, and above the dots we'll put 2%. So our first cash flow here, it happens in year 2020. Therefore, the present value will be 1 year before my first cash flow. So it will be here in year 2019. Therefore, we could say that for ordinary perpetuity and the growing perpetuity, the present value will always be 1 year before our first cash flow. But when we talk about ordinary perpetuity and the growing perpetuity, we talked about the present value. What about the future value? So we know that for ordinary perpetuity and the growing perpetuity, the definition is it will continue every year forever. So can you tell me where is forever? We cannot. Therefore, there is no future value for ordinary perpetuity and the growing perpetuity.